Right now, as you're watching this, someone you know is destroying their marriage. And they have no idea. It's not because they're cheating, lying, or fighting. It's because they're doing something far more dangerous, something so subtle, so accepted, that it's happening in millions of homes tonight while couples think everything is fine. I've spent over 2 decades watching good people tear each other apart. Not over affairs, not over addiction, not over violence, but over tiny, invisible knives that slowly bleed relationships to death. And here's the terrifying part. Most couples don't realize they're dying until they're already cold on the table. Tonight, I'm going to show you the 5 marriage killers that no one talks about. The ones that make infidelity look like a paper cut compared to a severed artery. Because here's what I know after watching thousands of relationships implode. Cheating is usually just the symptom. These 5 things, they're the disease. If this hits different, smash that like button. And I want you to comment below with the number of the secret that describes your relationship right now. Because recognition is the first step to salvation. Let's get dark. Secret number 1, the silent treatment disease. Secret number 1 will shock you because it's the exact opposite of what destroys most businesses, friendships, and every other human connection. Yet somehow, in marriage, we think silence is golden, the silent treatment disease. And no, I'm not talking about the petty silent treatment after a fight. I'm talking about something far more insidious. The slow, gradual shutdown of real communication. The death by 1,000 unspoken words. Here's how it starts. You're annoyed that your partner left dishes in the sink again, but you don't say anything because it's not worth a fight. You're hurt that they forgot to ask about your presentation at work, but you stay quiet because they should just know. You're frustrated about the lack of intimacy, but you swallow it because bringing it up will just make things weird. Sound familiar? Here's what's really happening. Every time you choose silence over communication, you're making a deposit into what I call the resentment bank. And unlike your savings account, this one pays compound interest in the worst possible way. You think you're keeping the peace. You're actually building a bomb. I've sat across from countless couples who tell me their marriage just died. No big fight. No dramatic betrayal. It just faded. And when we dig deeper, what do we find? Years of silence. Years of choosing not worth it over worth everything. But here's the part that'll really mess with your head. The things you don't say become bigger than the things you do say. That annoyance about the dishes, it becomes evidence that they don't respect you. That forgotten presentation, proof they don't care about your life. That intimacy issue, clear sign they're not attracted to you anymore. Your brain starts writing stories. And in those stories, your partner is always the villain. The silent treatment disease doesn't just kill communication, it murders empathy. When you stop telling your partner what's really going on in your head, you also stop trying to understand what's going on in theirs. You start assuming the worst, always. They're late from work? Must be avoiding you, not stuck in traffic. They're tired and go to bed early? Obviously don't want to spend time with you, not just exhausted from their 12-hour day. They suggest ordering pizza instead of cooking? Clearly think you're a bad cook, not just trying to give you a break. This is how marriages die. Not with a bang, but with a whisper that gradually fades to nothing. The cure is terrifying in its simplicity. Say the thing, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. But here's what no one tells you about communication being key. It has to be fearless communication, not the sanitized, walked on eggshells version most couples attempt. Real, raw, honest communication that sounds something like, "Hey, I know this might sound petty, but when you leave dishes in the sink, it makes me feel like you think I'm the maid. Can we figure out a system?" Or, "I'm feeling disconnected from you lately, and I'm scared it's becoming a pattern. Can we talk about what's going on?" Or even, "I miss being physically close to you, and I'm starting to take it personally. Help me understand what you're feeling. Does this sound awkward?" Good. Awkward is honest. Awkward is real. Smooth is for politicians and sociopaths. The couples who make it aren't the ones who never have problems. They're the ones who refuse to let problems live in silence where they grow into monsters. If you recognized yourself in this first secret, drop a 1 in the comments below. Because admitting you have the silent treatment disease is the first step to curing it, but we're just getting started. Secret number 2 is about something you probably did today without even thinking about it. Secret number 2, the comparison trap. Secret number 2 is happening right now on the device you're using to watch this video. And it's more addictive than cocaine, more destructive than gambling, and more available than water. The comparison. Trapped by social media has turned marriage into a competitive sport where everyone else appears to be winning and you're not even sure you're playing the same game. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a Facebook post that said, "Date night was mediocre"? We argued about money over appetizers and barely talked during the main course? Or an Instagram story that showed, "Sunday morning reality, he's scrolling his phone while I do laundry and wonder when we became roommates"? Never, because that's not what people post. Instead, you see the highlight reel, the anniversary dinner at that expensive restaurant, the surprise weekend getaway, the just because flowers with the caption, "He's the best," the vacation photos where everyone looks impossibly happy, and something toxic happens in your brain. You start comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's carefully curated performance. You think, why doesn't my husband surprise me with flowers anymore? While looking at a post from someone whose husband forgot their birthday last month, but happened to grab gas station roses on the way home from his guilt-induced apology shopping trip. You think, we never go anywhere fun, while scrolling through vacation photos from a couple who fought for 6 hours about directions during that same trip and barely spoke to each other for 2 days. You think, they look so in love, while staring at a photo where both people were asked to look happy 17 times before the photographer got the shot. This is how the comparison trap kills marriages. It makes you dissatisfied with a perfectly good relationship because it doesn't look like the fake perfection you see online. But here's where it gets really sinister. You start trying to compete. You start demanding that your real marriage live up to these fictional standards. You pressure your partner to be more romantic, more spontaneous, more publicly affectionate. Not because that's what you actually need, but because that's what you see other people getting. Your partner, who might be perfectly content being practical and steady and privately loving, suddenly becomes inadequate because they don't perform love the way strangers on the internet do. And then you start posting your own highlight reel, desperately trying to prove that your marriage is just as good as everyone else's fictional one. You plan elaborate date nights not because you want to connect, but because you need content. You take 17 photos of your anniversary. Dinner, because the first 16 didn't capture the romance you need to project. You've stopped living your marriage and started performing it. Here's what I've learned from watching this play out in countless relationships. The couples who post the most about how happy they are usually aren't. Because truly, happy couples are too busy being happy to document it constantly. The comparison trap doesn't just make you dissatisfied, it makes you dishonest. You start hiding the real parts of your relationship because they don't match the fantasy everyone else is selling. You stop talking about actual problems because admitting them feels like losing. And meanwhile, every other couple is doing the exact same thing, creating this massive circle of lies where everyone is pretending to be happier than they are while feeling inadequate compared to everyone else's pretense. The solution isn't to delete all your social media, though that's not a terrible idea. The solution is to get brutally honest about what you're actually comparing. You're comparing your everyday Tuesday to someone else's highlight reel Saturday. You're comparing your year of struggles to their one perfect moment. You're comparing your real marriage to their marketing campaign. Stop it. Your marriage doesn't need to look like anyone else's marriage. It needs to work for the two people in it. Period. If you want flowers, ask for flowers. If you want date nights, plan date nights. If you want romance, create romance. But do it because it adds value to your actual relationship, not because it'll look good on social media. The most dangerous phrase in marriage is other couples what? Other couples post different things. Other couples have different priorities. Other couples are lying on the internet just like everyone else. Here's your reality check. Behind every perfect marriage post is a real couple with real problems dealing with real life. They have morning breath and utility bills and arguments about whose turn it is to take out the trash. Just like you. The difference is they're not posting about that part. If the comparison trap has you in its grip, comment 2 below. Because recognizing that you're playing a rigged game is the first step to stopping. But we're about to get into something even more subtle and destructive. Secret number 3, the comfort zone coffin. Secret number 3 sounds like a good thing. In fact, most people would tell you it's the goal of marriage. And that's exactly why it's so deadly. The comfort zone coffin. Here's what happens. You meet someone amazing. The chemistry is electric. You can't wait to see them. You plan elaborate dates, have deep conversations until 3 a.m., send thoughtful texts throughout the day. You're both putting in maximum effort because you're terrified of losing this incredible thing you found. Then you get married, and something shifts. The effort starts to fade, not dramatically, gradually, like a slow leak in a tire. So subtle, you don't notice until you're flat on the side of the road wondering what happened. You stop planning surprise dates because we're married now. We don't need to impress each other anymore. You stop having those deep late-night conversations because we already know everything about each other. You stop sending sweet texts because they know I love them. You start taking each other for granted, and you call it being comfortable. But here's the brutal truth. There's a massive difference between being comfortable and being complacent. Comfort is when you can be yourself without fear. Complacency is when you stop trying to be your best self. Comfort is wearing sweatpants and no makeup around your partner. Complacency is never making an effort with your appearance because they're stuck with me anyway. Comfort is being able to disagree without fear of abandonment. Complacency is stopping all meaningful conversation because what's the point? Comfort is not needing to impress your partner every day. Complacency is never trying to impress them ever again. And here's the thing that'll really mess with your head. Your partner fell in love with the person who was trying. The person who put thought into dates, who asked meaningful questions, who made an effort to look good and be interesting and show love in creative ways. When you stop being that person, they don't get a better version of you. They get a lazier one. I've watched this pattern destroy marriages where both people still loved each other, but love without effort is just a pleasant memory of how things used to be. You want to know what kills more marriages than infidelity? Boredom, soul-crushing, mind-numbing is this all there is? Boredom. When you stop growing, stop trying, stop surprising each other, you don't get stability, you get stagnation. And stagnation feels like death, just in slow motion. Think about how you acted when you were dating. You planned creative dates. You listened intently to their stories. You remembered little details about their day. You made an effort to look good when you saw them. You sent flirty texts. You bought small, thoughtful gifts just because. Now think about how you act in your marriage. Are you still that person? Or have you decided that marriage means you can stop trying because the deal is already closed? Here's what I tell couples. Your marriage is not a savings account where you can make a large deposit, the wedding, and then live off the interest forever. It's a checking account that requires regular deposits to stay active. The comfort zone coffin kills marriages because it makes you forget that your partner is still a choice. They choose to stay with you every day. And that choice should be easy to make because you're still worth choosing. This doesn't mean you need to be on all the time. It doesn't mean you can't relax and be human. It means you can't stop being intentional about your relationship just because you signed a piece of paper. Want to know if you're in the comfort zone coffin? Ask yourself these questions. When was the last time you surprised your partner with something thoughtful? When was the last time you asked them a question you didn't already know the answer to? When was the last time you made an effort to look good specifically for them? When was the last time you planned something special just because? If you can't remember, you're not comfortable. You're complacent. And complacency is the enemy of every great marriage. The solution is terrifyingly simple. Start trying again. Not occasionally, consistently. Plan a date night and actually plan it. Don't just say, what do you want to do? Until you end up ordering takeout and watching Netflix. Ask your partner about their dreams, their fears, their thoughts on things you've never discussed. Turns out people keep growing and changing even after you marry them. Make an effort with your appearance sometimes. Not because you're shallow, but because showing your partner that they're worth the effort is a form of love. Buy small, thoughtful gifts. Leave notes. Send texts that aren't about logistics. Remember what it felt like to pursue someone and be pursued. Then create that feeling again on purpose. Your marriage isn't a trophy you won. It's a garden you tend. Stop watering it and it dies, no matter how beautiful it was when you planted it. If you're living in the comfort zone coffin, comment 3 below. Because admitting you've stopped trying is the first step to trying again. But now, we need to talk about something that destroys more marriages than almost anything else. And it's not what you think. Secret number 4, the financial blindness. Secret number 4 is going to make you uncomfortable because it's not really about money. It's about something much deeper and more dangerous. Financial blindness. And before you roll your eyes and think this is just about budgets and credit cards, let me tell you what this is really about. It's about discovering that the person you married has a completely different value system than you thought. And that difference is playing out in every financial decision you make. Here's how it starts. You're dating, everything is separate, and money rarely comes up except in the context of who's paying for dinner. You both seem reasonable about money. Neither of you appears to be a spendthrift or a penny pincher. Everything seems compatible. Then you get married, and suddenly every financial decision becomes a window into your souls. And what you see is terrifying. You want to save for a house, down payment. They want to take a vacation to Europe. You think the vacation is frivolous? They think you're being cheap and boring. But here's what's really happening. You grew up in a family where financial security was paramount, where every dollar saved was a dollar protecting you from disaster. They grew up in a family where experiences were everything, where life was meant to be lived and money was just a tool for living it. Neither of you is wrong. But you're incompatible in a way that will tear your marriage apart if you don't address it. Financial blindness isn't about having different amounts of money. It's about having different money stories, money fears, and money dreams that you never bothered to discuss before you legally combined your financial lives. You think buying organic food is important for your family's health. They think it's a waste of money when regular food is fine. You think eating out twice a week is a reasonable treat. They think it's irresponsible when you could cook at home for a fraction of the cost. You think upgrading your phone every 2 years is normal. They think using a phone until it dies is the only sensible approach. You think hiring a cleaning service is worth it for the time it saves. They think paying someone to do something you can do yourself is insane. None of these disagreements are really about money. They're about values. They're about what you believe matters and what you believe is worth prioritizing. And here's where financial blindness becomes lethal. Instead of recognizing these as differences in values that need to be discussed and negotiated, you start assuming your partner's financial choices are personal attacks on your intelligence, your priorities, or your character. When they spend money on something you think is unnecessary, you don't think we have different priorities. You think they're irresponsible and selfish. When they want to save money on something you think is important, you don't think they value financial security. You think they don't care about the things that matter to me. Every financial decision becomes a battle about who's right instead of a conversation, about how to honor both of your values within your shared reality. I've watched couples destroy their marriages fighting about money when they both made good incomes and had no financial stress. I've watched couples who were broke as hell stay together because they had the same values about money. The amount of money you have matters far less than whether you agree on what money is. For here's what financial blindness really reveals. You didn't actually discuss what kind of life you wanted to build together. You just assumed you wanted the same things because you were attracted to each other. You never asked, what does financial security mean to you? What do you think money should be spent on? What are you willing to go without in order to have what matters most? How do you want to balance enjoying life now versus preparing for the future? You never discussed whether you're spenders or savers, whether you believe in living below your means or maximizing your lifestyle, whether you think debt is a tool or an enemy. And now you're married, and every financial choice reveals this fundamental incompatibility that you both thought the other person would just figure out and adapt to your clearly superior approach. The solution isn't to have more money. The solution is to have honest conversations about what money represents to each of you and to create a shared vision that honors both of your values. This might mean the spender learns to appreciate the peace of mind that comes with saving. It might mean the saver learns to appreciate the joy that comes with occasional splurging. It usually means both of you have to give up the fantasy that your way is the only reasonable way. But here's the part that might save your marriage. Most financial fights aren't actually about the money. They're about feeling heard, respected, and understood. When your partner dismisses your desire to save as being cheap, they're not really talking about money. They're saying your fears about the future don't matter. When your partner dismisses your desire to spend as being wasteful, they're not really talking about money. They're saying your need for enjoyment and experiences doesn't matter. Financial blindness is cured by empathy, not budgets. You need to understand why your partner feels the way they do about money before you can figure out how to spend it together. If financial blindness is destroying your marriage, comment 4 below. Because recognizing that your money fights are actually values fights is the first step to solving them. But now we need to talk about the most insidious marriage killer of all, secret number 5, the identity erasure. Secret number 5 is the one that destroys marriages even when everything else seems perfect. It's subtle, it's gradual, and it's absolutely devastating. Identity erasure. Here's what it looks like. You meet someone incredible and you want to share everything with them. You start spending more and more time together. You love the same movies, eat at the same restaurants, hang out with the same friends. You become a unit, a team, a we. And somehow, without realizing it, you stop being a me. This is supposed to be romantic. 2 becoming 1, unity, togetherness, the goal of every love song and romantic movie. It's actually the death of attraction. Here's what no one tells you about love. Your partner didn't fall in love with half a person who needed to be completed. They fell in love with a whole person who had their own life, interests, friends, dreams, and identity. When you erase that person in favor of becoming part of a couple, you don't become more lovable. You become less interesting. Identity erasure happens gradually. You start spending every weekend together instead of maintaining your own friend groups. You adopt all their interests and abandon your own hobbies. You make every decision as a unit instead of maintaining any independence. You think you're being a good partner. You're actually suffocating your relationship. Here's the brutal truth. Your partner needs you to be someone worth missing. When you're together 24/7, when you have no separate life, when you bring nothing new to the relationship because you've consumed all your experiences together, you become predictable. And predictable is the enemy of passion. I've watched marriages die because both people became so enmeshed that they forgot they were supposed to be 2 different people who chose to build a life together. Instead, they became one boring person living one boring life. Think about when you were dating. You had your own friends, your own hobbies, your own job that you cared about, your own dreams that didn't revolve around your relationship. You would go out and have experiences, then come back and share them with your partner. You were interesting because you had a life outside of them. Now think about your marriage. Do you still have friends you see without your spouse? Do you still have hobbies that are just yours? Do you still have goals that aren't relationship goals? Or have you become half of a couple instead of a whole person who happens to be in a relationship? Identity erasure is particularly dangerous because it feels like love. It feels romantic to want to do everything together. It feels like commitment to merge your lives completely. But here's what actually happens. When you lose yourself in your relationship, you become needy, dependent, and clingy. Your partner becomes your entire source of entertainment, validation, and fulfillment. That's not romantic. That's suffocating. Your partner fell in love with someone who had their own passions, their own opinions, their own energy source. When you make them responsible for all of your happiness, you become an emotional vampire instead of an equal partner. And then you wonder why the spark is gone. The solution isn't to become selfish or independent to the point of disconnection. The solution is to remain a whole person who chooses to share their whole life with another whole person. This means maintaining friendships outside your marriage. Your partner needs to know that you're choosing to spend time with them because you want to, not because they're your only option. This means keeping hobbies that are just yours. Your partner needs to see you passionate and excited about something that doesn't involve them. It reminds them that you're a complex, interesting person worth being attracted to. This means having goals and dreams that aren't relationship goals. Your partner needs to see you growing and evolving as an individual, not just as half of a couple. This means being able to entertain yourself. Your partner should enhance your happiness, not be responsible for creating it. Identity erasure also kills marriages because it eliminates growth. When two people merge completely, they stop challenging each other. They stop bringing new perspectives, new experiences, new ideas to the relationship. You become an echo chamber instead of a conversation. The strongest marriages aren't between two people who are exactly the same. They're between two people who are different enough to keep teaching each other new things, but compatible enough to build a life together. Your marriage should make you more yourself, not less yourself. If you've erased your identity in your marriage, it's not too late to get it back. Start small. Reconnect with an old friend. Take up a hobby your partner isn't interested in. Set a goal that's just for you. Your partner might resist at first if they've gotten used to having all of your attention. But ultimately, they'll be more attracted to the interesting person you become than the half person you've been. You can't love someone else fully until you know who you are. And you can't maintain someone's interest if you're not interesting. If identity erasure has you trapped, comment 5 below. Because remembering that you're supposed to be a whole person is the first step to saving your marriage. The brutal truth. Here's what I need you to understand. These 5 secrets aren't just problems. They're epidemics. They're happening in marriages everywhere, every day. Destroying relationships between people who genuinely love each other. The silent treatment disease. The comparison trap. The comfort zone coffin. Financial blindness. Identity erasure. Any one of these can kill a marriage. Most marriages suffer from multiple secrets simultaneously. And the most tragic part? Almost all of it is preventable. But prevention requires something most people aren't willing to do. It requires you to be uncomfortable. It requires you to have difficult conversations, to maintain effort when it would be easier to coast, to stay connected to yourself while building a life with someone else. It requires you to choose your marriage every single day, not just on your wedding day. Most people think marriage is the destination. It's not. Marriage is the vehicle. And like any vehicle, it requires regular maintenance or it breaks down on the side of the road. The difference between couples who make it and couples who don't isn't that the successful couples don't face these challenges. It's that they recognize them early and do something about them. They communicate instead of staying silent. They focus on their own relationship instead of comparing it to others. They maintain effort instead of getting complacent. They discuss their values instead of assuming compatibility. They stay whole people instead of merging into relationship soup. It's not easy, but neither is divorce. Neither is starting over. Neither is wondering what if for the rest of your life. Your marriage is either getting stronger or getting weaker. There is no neutral. Every day you don't address these issues is the day they get worse. So which secret hit closest to home? Drop that number in the comments below, and let's start a real conversation about saving marriages instead of just watching them die. And if this video made you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is the price of growth. Hit that like button if you're ready to do the work instead of just hoping for the best. Because your marriage is worth fighting for, but you have to actually fight. The question is, will you?